Imagine standing in front of everyone you know, your friends, your family, your community, and in that very moment, the truth you were never supposed to hear is revealed. Not in whispers, not behind closed doors, but right there, out loud, with all eyes on you. That kind of truth doesn't just sting, it shatters everything you thought was real. Her story begins with love, or at least what she believed was love. He was charming, attentive, the kind of man who could light up a room with his smile. To her, he was safety, comfort, and the promise of a future she had always dreamed of. They met in ways that felt destined, two souls crossing paths at just the right time. Everyone said they were perfect together, and she believed it too. But life has a way of hiding shadows behind bright lights, and she was about to learn just how dark those shadows could be. Before I continue, let me welcome you. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Every day, we uncover stories that keep you hooked, stories that will make you think twice about the world around you. Don't miss a single one. Subscribe and join this journey with us. Now, back to her story. At first, everything felt like a dream. Dinners by candlelight, long walks where conversations flowed endlessly, little surprises that made her feel cherished. He seemed like the kind of man every woman hopes to meet. But deep down, there were moments she couldn't quite explain. Times when he would disappear without reason. Nights when his phone never left his hand. Questions she asked that were met with vague answers or silence. Still, she brushed it aside. Because love has a way of blinding us, convincing us that doubt is disloyalty, that suspicion is a weakness. Then came the night that changed everything. It was supposed to be a celebration, a family gathering, a moment of joy, where laughter filled the air and glasses clinked in cheer. She dressed carefully, eager to stand by his side, proud to call him hers. But as the evening unfolded, as stories were shared and truths slipped out, she felt the ground beneath her begin to shift. At first, it was small, a name mentioned, a detail overlooked, something that didn't align with the life she thought she knew. Her chest tightened, her mind racing to piece it together. She smiled through it, convincing herself it was nothing. But then, someone spoke the words that would cut deeper than any blade, words that exposed everything in front of everyone. The mask her partner wore was ripped away, and with it, the life she believed she had. She froze. The room went silent. Every face turned toward her, some with pity, some with shock, others waiting to see how she would respond. And in that moment, her world fell apart. Not privately, not gently, but publicly, brutally, in front of everyone she knew. But this is only the beginning of what unfolded next. Her heart was pounding so loudly she could barely hear the voices around her. The truth was laid bare, undeniable, echoing through the silence that had fallen over the room. For a moment, she couldn't move. Her eyes darted to him, searching, pleading for some kind of explanation, some denial, some reassurance that this was all a mistake. But what she saw in his face wasn't guilt or sorrow. It was fear, the kind of fear that only comes when someone realizes their secrets can't be buried anymore. Her chest tightened as the whispers began. People leaned in closer to one another, muttering, piecing together fragments of what had just been revealed. Every second that passed felt like an eternity. She wanted to scream, to demand the truth directly from his lips, but the words caught in her throat. All she could do was stand there, shaking, while the world she knew unraveled before her. Finally, she found her voice. "Is it true?" she asked, her tone breaking, trembling. All eyes shifted, from her to him, waiting for his response. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Just silence. That silence was louder than any confession, more damning than any excuse. He lowered his head, and in that instant, she knew. Everything she feared, every doubt she had buried, every question she had silenced, she was right. Her knees threatened to give way, but she stood tall. Pride was the only thing she had left in that moment, and she clung to it like a lifeline. Yet inside, she was collapsing. Every memory, every promise, every word of love they had shared, twisted into something ugly and cruel. She felt like she had been living in a beautifully painted lie, and now the paint was peeling, revealing rot beneath. The room wasn't just filled with whispers anymore, it was filled with judgment. Eyes pierced into her, some sympathetic, others smug, as if they had suspected all along. And then came the worst part, the realization that everyone had seen the truth at the same time she had. It wasn't her secret to wrestle with privately. It was a spectacle, a humiliation, a performance she never signed up for. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't just destroy, it also awakens. As painful as it was, something inside her began to stir. Anger. Not the kind that lashes out, but the kind that rises quietly, steadily, and gives you strength when you feel weakest. She had been deceived, but she would not let that deception define her. She turned to him again, her voice firmer now, steadier. "How long?" she asked. This time, he looked at her, eyes glassy, lips trembling. He muttered something, an answer she couldn't even process. But she didn't need to. The details no longer mattered. What mattered was that the life she thought she had was gone. Her family looked at her, waiting to see if she would crumble. But she didn't. Instead, she drew in a breath and lifted her chin. She would not give him the satisfaction of watching her break. The truth may have been revealed in front of everyone, but what she did next, how she chose to rise, would define her far more than his betrayal ever could. And so, in that crowded room, with every eye upon her, she made a decision that would change everything. She stood there, her decision forming in silence, heavy but unshakable. For years she had played the part, loving, trusting, forgiving. But now, with the truth hanging in the air like a blade, she felt something shift inside her. It wasn't just about him anymore. It wasn't about what he had done. It was about her, about reclaiming herself, piece by piece, from the lies that had held her captive. She took a step forward, and the crowd seemed to part around her. Every movement she made was being watched. Every breath she took measured. Yet instead of shrinking under their gaze, she found herself growing taller, stronger. Her voice, though quiet, cut through the room with more power than any scream. "You lied to me," she said, steady and clear, "and you let me stand here like a fool in front of everyone we know." He flinched, as if struck. His eyes darted around, searching for someone to defend him, to soften the blow. But no one did. The silence of the crowd wasn't neutral. It was a judgment of its own. And he could feel it pressing in on him. For a moment, her heart wavered. A part of her still longed for the man she thought he was, the promises they once shared. But that part was fading, being replaced by a fire she hadn't felt in years. She remembered who she was before him, strong, independent, unafraid. That woman wasn't gone. She had only been hidden, buried under his charm and her own hope. Now, she was rising again. She turned her back on him and walked toward the door. Each step echoed louder than the last, as if announcing to everyone in that room that she was done. Done with the lies, done with the waiting, done with the version of love that took more than it ever gave. But just as she reached the door, his voice cracked through the silence. "Please, wait." Desperation dripped from every syllable. The crowd froze, sensing that something deeper was about to surface. He stumbled forward, his face pale, sweat beading at his temple. "I never wanted you to find out like this. I thought I could protect you from the truth." She stopped, her hand still on the door. Slowly, she turned, her eyes narrowing. "Protect me?" she repeated. The word sounded foreign, almost laughable. "You didn't protect me. You protected yourself. And now everyone knows exactly who you are." His knees buckled slightly, and for the first time, the confident man she had once adored looked small, broken, almost pathetic. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her next move. And then it happened. One person in the crowd clapped, another followed. It wasn't applause of celebration, but of recognition. Recognition of her courage, her strength in standing tall while her world collapsed. Soon the entire room was filled with that sound. The sound of people honoring her resilience, not his excuses. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Instead, she let the sound wash over her. For once, she wasn't the one left in the shadows. She was the light in the room, burning brighter with every passing second. She looked at him one final time, and in her eyes, there was no hatred, only clarity. "This is the last time you'll ever see me like this," she said softly. "Broken, humiliated, because after tonight, I rise." And with that, she opened the door and stepped out, leaving behind not just the man who betrayed her, but the life that had once chained her. What she didn't know yet was that stepping through that door was only the beginning. The truth had destroyed her illusions, but it had also given her something far greater. Freedom. The night air hit her face like a rush of clarity. She stepped outside, away from the whispers, the stares, the heavy walls that had once caged her. For the first time in years, she felt weightless. Not because everything was perfect, but because the lies were finally gone. Truth had shattered her world, yes, but in its ruins, she discovered a power she never knew she carried. Behind her, the murmurs from the crowd faded into nothing. She didn't need their pity, their opinions, or their questions. She had already won. Not the argument, not the courtroom of public opinion, but herself. The greatest victory she could ever claim. He remained inside, a hollow shell of the man she thought she loved, left to face the silence that followed his collapse. She wouldn't carry his mistakes anymore. She wouldn't shoulder his burdens. That was no longer her story to live. She looked up at the night sky, tears finally slipping free. But these weren't tears of pain. They were release, cleansing her of every broken promise, every false smile, every moment she doubted her worth. She whispered to herself, "I choose me." And for once those words weren't just an escape, they were a beginning. Life would not be easy from here. Healing rarely is. But she knew that no matter what came next, she would never again silence her own voice for someone else's comfort. The truth had been revealed, not to destroy her, but to free her. And that's the message I want to leave you with today. Sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that set you free. Sometimes what feels like the end is actually the start of the life you were always meant to live. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe for more powerful daily videos. Your support keeps us bringing you stories that not only entertain, but also remind us of the strength we all carry inside. Remember this: no betrayal, no humiliation, no moment of pain can define you. What defines you is what you choose to do after. She chose freedom. She chose truth. And so can you. Because the truth isn't always easy, but it is always worth it.